Hi, everybody. I am Monica Sigmon, a Sony Artisan of Imagery, here with my very good friend and also Sony Artisan of Imagery, Kesha Lambert, today. Today is episode 6 of our Sony Alpha Female, the interviews series, and I am super duper excited. Hey, Kesha,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thanks for doing this with us. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too. It's good to be on and thank you for having me.
Yeah. So for those of you who are new to the series, this is an opportunity for us to share amazing female creators. We have an incredible Sony Alpha Female group on Facebook. Kesha and I are in there all the time. And I think, Kesha, what do we have? About 14,000 members in the group now, I think.
That sounds about right.
Yep. And they're doing little pop-ups all over the country, little meetings with photographers everywhere. And it's just a really cool, supportive group that you have a safe space to ask questions and pick brains and not feel like you're in a bubble, right, Kesh?
Yes.
We've each done that too long, I think.
Yeah, it's very welcoming for even for us shy folks.
Yes, yes. We're going to talk about you being shy in a minute here. Okay, so I'm going to I'm going to just go through your bio really quick. So if there's like any random person that doesn't, for some reason, know who Kesha Lambert is, then we'll catch them up to speed. But I'm going to do it really quickly because I have a million things I want to talk to you about. Amazing internationally award-winning wedding photographer from the Bronx, which I just love your accent so much. You recently moved over to Philly, right?
In Pennsylvania area,
Pennsylvania
Philly
area.
adjacent.
Philly adjacent. Okay, got it. And you call yourself a Jamaican because of your Jamaican lineage, which I love that so much, which I got to learn when we were together in Vegas and we designed your denim jacket with
Yes,
uh,
my
Jamaican.
flag.
Yeah, your Jamaican flag colors. I think what people might not know about you, or they know, but it's the one of the most surprising things about you is photography was not your first thing. You were and still are, but your full-time profession was an attorney.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that transition because that's crazy, and then we're going to talk about part-time to full-time. But I think one of the things about Kesha that I'm excited to share with everybody today is the fact that your work, Kesha, you are like a singular artist. I mean, every time you are, nothing's ever the same, but it's still distinctly recognizably you, which is a very difficult thing to accomplish. But I never get bored of looking at your things. I never am like, oh, she did that last wedding or whatever. It looks the same. It's always different, but I always know it's yours. So I am so inspired by what you do. And we've got to talk group posing today because there's nobody better at it than are. Like that's just crazy cool. So how many weddings do you think you've done?
Um, I haven't counted recently, but several hundred. So I don't have an exact count, but I believe I'm somewhere in the neighborhood of I'm over 600 at this point. Um,
Gosh.
don't have the exact number, but it's been hundreds of weddings, yes.
And people pay you to go places. I mean, you've done plenty in New York City and that area, tri-state area and all the things, but where are some of the craziest or most fun or furthest places that you have done weddings?
So I've done weddings all over the US. And then in terms of international, lots of island destinations. So St. Martin and Barbados and recently this year started the year in Jamaica, which was fun for me because I haven't been there in a while. And then I've even done some engagements like in parts of Europe, Paris, some of those popular destinations that
Wow,
that people like
wow.
to go to. So the photography in general has brought me to a lot of places, you know, photographing weddings, but also being on the like conference and education circuit. I've, you know, had the honor and the privilege of traveling to some places that I probably, I might not have otherwise carved out time to do. So that's been
Right.
one of the wonderful things about this life.
So when did you leave? How long have you been out of full-time law?
10 years now. So I'm
Okay.
still a lawyer. I'm still an attorney.
Right.
um,
Right.
uh, Not completely and entirely collecting dust on the
Yeah.
law
Yeah.
license, but I am full-time in photography. So, and I have been for 10 years. So
Nice. And you've done a lot in 10 years. I mean, I feel like you skyrocketed. Your career skyrocketed in 10 years. I mean, I've been around like two and a half times that long, and I'm still like
oh,
not.
you are
You're hilarious. Like I remember one
not
day,
start with that,
one
Monica.
day you were on TikTok. I remember where I was sitting in my home. One day you were on TikTok. Like I remember literally the day that you posted your first TikTok, and then like I checked back like a week later, and you were at like 80 million people following you. I was just like, what
No,
is she? How
TikTok
is
is
she
interesting to
doing
me.
this? What is she doing? Oh my God. But yes, so if you guys don't follow Kesha on TikTok, go do that before it's all shut down. And because you're really, really putting cool, great tips on there and you just make everything you give a lot of value for the screen time that you're on there. So
Thank you for saying that.
yeah, I'm
And
always like, what's
and
she?
you are incredible. So I'm gonna
Well,
need you to stop.
I just want to be you when I grow up. So and enough of the mutual
It is
admiration
mutual.
society
The
here.
admiration is absolutely mutual.
Well, thank you. So, okay. Um, sorry. I'm
Yes.
thinking. Okay. We're just gonna call that like a little timeout on the
Yes.
internet. Like that was a little
We're
broad.
talking TikTok
That was
and
a
career changes
broadcasting plan.
and
Yeah. We're gonna blame it on Zoom.
yes.
Okay, so but you also do portraits too. So what's the ratio there in your business of
So
portraits?
yeah, I actually do portraits and some brand work and corporate events. Uh,
Okay.
when you find me online, you see couples, you see weddings. Um, I do have some long-standing clients in the fashion space, so like some brands that I work with. And then I also, through word of mouth, and also some long-standing clients and relationships, which I preach about often. Even though I don't market like online for this type of work, I do a fair amount of corporate events and things like mainly corporate events. But so if I were to allocate percentages, I'd say about 60-70% of it is weddings still. And you know, I do a lot of portraits annually as well. And then I would assign a percentage of something like 20 or 30% to the brand and corporate work that I do.
So I want to know when, I mean, because so all right, how many weddings a year ish?
So me personally, that
Yeah.
I personally photograph, at 30 to 40 weddings that I personally photograph. I do
Okay.
have two associates that work with me. They will do between 10 and 20 themselves.
Okay.
So that's kind of the gist of it with weddings. Over time, I learned what my threshold is because we're not, the human component of providing your art, your work, as a service. You still have to provide the service, but a big part of it is you being operating at your best, your
Mm,
most optimal self, right? And so
right.
you kind of learn over time what that threshold is for you. And for me, that number is somewhere around 40 is where, and I've done there, I had years past where I did 50 to 60 weddings, which, you can increase the likelihood of making mistakes, human error when you go past your threshold. So
Mm.
yeah.
And so what I want to know is, so you photograph all these beautiful weddings, and then you can tell just by watching you work, and you can tell by the portraits themselves that you have a great relationship with your clients. Because I always think that like when we look at a finished portrait, it is part of the reflection of the photographer too. Like if they're having a good time or whatever, and just watching your TikTok, I know you're having a good time at these receptions. So I want to know when these people have babies and children and they're making families, like, are you still photographing them for family? Okay. Because
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like, if
one of
not, send them my way because
yeah, I got you. Oh my God. Yeah, a lot of my portrait work, so this does spin off from the couples that I've worked with, and that's one of the things I feel is really, I'm a sap. I think that's one of the things that is really beautiful about photographing weddings, that you're part of capturing someone's legacy. And so without, in the course of, so I say I've been in business full time 10 years. I started earlier than that. So you're talking, there's some relationships that span 14, 15 years.
okay.
And um, in terms of weddings, I have people who I did their engagement, I did their wedding, I did their maternity portraits. I've done
Wow. Yeah.
first birthdays and second birthdays and um,
Yeah.
an annual family portrait. So it's really sweet when I get to see what becomes of the couple because of that relationship continuing. Uh,
Yeah. You
so,
were
and
there at the beginning.
yes, I have portrait clients because so a little history before I started in weddings, um, I did um, I did have a portrait studio and I did that for a few years before deciding to focus in weddings. And so I have some portrait clients from babies to teenagers, so it's really cool. I'm sure you can relate. I don't know,
Yes.
to there's something about doing that personal work with people.
Yeah. And just seeing, from a broad bird's eye view, the evolution of a family,
Mhm.
and, a couple, gosh, I guess 3 or 4 years ago, one of my littles, I'd been photographing them since they were, toddlers. And it was a family with 3 kids, and the youngest just had a baby a couple years ago. And that was a moment for me because I thought, wow, I am now on the third generation of this family, and that is pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
And watching, the baby's grandparents, who were my first clients, right? Like
Mhm.
just watching how different they are with their grandchildren as opposed to how they were with their children at a family portrait session is hilarious.
Yeah.
Because when they were with their kids, I mean, they were like, on
Right.
them and don't
Wow.
do this and don't do that. And then they have grandkids on the scene and they're like, oh, he'll be back, just, hang out and he's having fun. Like they're hilarious.
Yeah.
So, but it's been, and I don't have that kind of, I don't have those relationships in my own family. So for me, it's really, really, like you said, a privilege to be able to witness that in these families that we just have seen over and over. I just 2 weeks ago photographed a high school senior portrait for a girl whose parents' wedding I did.
Oh,
So it's just
wow. Yeah.
feeling a little old. Like that was a little
It
hard,
doesn't take much
but
for that to happen, honestly. You
yeah,
blink
it's like
and
before
you're
you
like,
know it.
yeah.
So, but yeah, so it is really, really special. And I wish that I saw more of your portrait work because actually I probably don't wish it because then I'd be really depressed. But I actually would love to see more of it because I would love to see how you treat your portrait sessions. So before we go too much further, can you share with us some of your images for anybody that is not familiar with your work? I want to kind of talk through your process a little bit because they are just so beautiful and so different.
I have a few pulled up, but this is a morning prep photo. I love to play with light and movement,
Mhm.
and a big part of being a wedding photographer is storytelling. And so you'll hear me preach about that often, is that I use movement a lot. And it could be in the subtleties uh, of the photo. It's not necessarily somebody walking or running. Um, this is a wedding that I did on Martha's Vineyard. I love when couples kind of choose places that are sentimental to them. And this is kind of a representation of the types of weddings that I do. Like I do a lot of large, uh, often multicultural weddings
Mhm.
that have beautiful decor. If you're a flower lover, it's it's I photograph a lot of large weddings, but I also photograph a fair amount of elopements and small weddings. So this would be one of the bigger weddings.
Mhm.
Um,
Beautiful.
let's Speaking of multicultural weddings, this is a Nigerian wedding. So this was I, I have a lot of blended culture weddings, but I always joke that I'm an honorary Nigerian and also an honorary Haitian because I have of I would if I can't assign a percentage, but I say every year and I photograph maybe almost maybe not have, but about third of the weddings that I have are like Haitian weddings, or
Wow.
so
Wow.
I have a large Haitian, or at least one half of the couple is Nigerian, or
Right.
so one half of the couple is Haitian. So very immersed in multicultural weddings, but specifically Haitian and Nigerian weddings.
Oh,
Um,
look at that.
I would say that I embrace the mess, and I lean candid. So while I do direct and stage photos, I love to I'm always on the ready. And so I will often choose capturing the moment over perfection. This was uh grandparents of the bride. They spontaneously kissed as on exiting the ceremony. It was
Oh, that's so
a
good.
moment I didn't know it was going to happen. No one knew it was going to happen. Kind of threw up the camera and captured the shot.
Oh, look at that.
Bride.
Your couples are really, I mean, beautiful. Like
They
you are beautiful people.
I love that they and it's funny, like beautiful people inside and out. And I think
Yeah.
I spend a lot of energy in I believe in attracting people with
Yeah.
what you put out, right? And so when your reputation is solid among the people you work with, not necessarily for perfection, but your reputation is solid for producing an outcome that reflects the clients themselves and that they are happy with, that
Mhm.
they enjoyed their experience.
Mhm.
I think I track good people and I'm happy about that.
I think that's I want to jump in there because I think that's a really important point because I think, oh, don't rush through these. Wait a minute, girl, hold up. I think that that's a really important point because, it's easy for somebody to say, oh, well, of course her work looks great, or of course his work looks great. Like they just photograph beautiful people in beautiful locations with a lot of money for all the things. But you hit the nail on the head. That doesn't happen by accident. This happens because you have built a brand that is known for being kind, and you attract cool people. Like you and your husband are two of the coolest people. And so it's like you guys just attract that energy. So I think that's really important. Okay, this I'm obsessed with, and I love the guy over on like the in the middle row fixing his jacket. Like that's fantastic.
And this is one of the things that I think quite a few of us wedding photographers or photographers in general, even portrait photographers, if you work with having to pose groups and stuff like that, it can be challenging, especially under a time crunch. But I've grown to really love posing people and posing groups in particular. I try to use the environment every opportunity I can. So movement, use of the environment, trying to stage people in a way that is flattering according I wanted to reflect the vibe of the couple and the people that they've invited to be a part of their wedding party. So,
So for this, let's stop here for a second. Like I want to get in your head. What I love is the bride and groom are not in the center of the portrait. And I love the rhythm. And so are you like how much of this is being handled on the fly? How much of this is kind of roughed in before ahead of time? Like what's your process to get an image like this?
so 90% of the time, there is no like pre-planning for how I'm going to lay a group out. It's very much in the moment, me assessing in the moment. My process is to step back, choose a spot, based on, look at scan the people I'm working with, look at the location, choose a spot. I like an environment that I can find. I lean towards looking for opportunities for framing and levels, especially when I have a large group. So
Okay.
I kind of have like a thought process or general things that I'm looking for in an environment, color, texture. But if I have a large group, the levels, all that wonderful stuff. Once I identify a spot, I'm in the moment kind of assessing how I want it to flow, like the pattern that I would like to lay out based on the count of people I'm positioning. It's very much feeding off of what people are wearing. Does somebody have a high split? Is somebody giving me sultry? Is somebody giving me playful? Like I'm
Mhm.
placing people according to like all of that energy. And I'm making that decision in a moment. And hindsight is 2020. I'll often, and then once I start placing people in the positions and deciding where I place the couple last, I identify where I might want them to be. I believe the eyes will always go to the couple, so I don't always put them dead center.
So interesting. You place them last.
Yeah, I place them last. But I usually know where I'm going to place them.
Okay.
The
Okay.
reason why I place them last, well, for practical reasons, I don't want the bride and groom standing in a spot the
Yeah.
longest. I want
Yeah.
them to be able to rest on the side. But oftentimes, I need to see how they're going to be framed before I put them in, and then
Mhm.
make adjustments. And I'll step back and just look at it. But as I was mentioning, a lot of times after I do this fairly quickly. So
I was going
practice,
to say, I know you're moving quick.
yeah, everything is always quick on the wedding day, especially if the things have gone off timeline or for whatever reason, we have to make up for it by working like that.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll step back and I'll look at a photo afterwards and be like, shoot, I wish I would have put this person there.
Yeah.
The pattern didn't. But I'm looking for balance in the scene in the way I place people or intention, just intention, like whether it's I'm using the triangle system or whether I'm forming shapes or whether I'm trying to have it flow. I want it to look balanced and looking for symmetry, but overall I want it to make sense. I want someone to look at it and for it to make sense to the eyes.
And I love that you are not like you're just so unconventional. Like you're not pairing up every bridesmaid with each groomsman. Like they're split up here, they're doing different things. And I feel like you get a little bit of a sense of personality, not just mannequins, you know? And so I think that's really, really great. Okay, now you can go to the next one. You're rushing through these, and I'm like, no, I need to know. I gotta find some of this stuff out. This is
um, this is like a prep photo. I just again love to use movement. I had another one up, but I don't know what happened to it from the same. Let me see if I can find it. Um, yeah, so this was from the same kind of set.
nice.
A lot of my approach to posing involves some kind of subtle movement. She's up on her tippy toe. I
Mm,
was movement. So and I find that it's such a great tool for getting natural, but to coach out the body language that you want, to coach out the expression that you want. So to get people out of their head, but also choice of posing. This is a bridal robe photo. I wanted it to reflect this. I always wanted to reflect the person. So this bride, I mean, you can tell from her look that she's actually, if I remember correctly, a fashion influencer. So she's like, um, and
yeah,
she's not a traditional,
right.
bridal beauty shot kind of bride. Like,
I love that.
we did some of that, but I wanted what we did to kind of reflect her energy and her vibe.
That's so great.
And I think I can show a couple more.
Sure.
Let me see if I can. This
Ah,
this was a let's see if we can make her bigger. This was I'm gonna pull this to the side.
and we can't see anything else. We just see the one image.
Oh,
So
okay. Oh, so you're
yeah,
not, I didn't know if I shared my whole desktop.
yeah. No, no, no.
Okay. So yeah, so I got caught. This was a moment during the ceremony. They were exchanging vows. Groom was reciting his vows to her, and I thought I was being stealthy. My 70 to 200 behind the bush trying to get like this this kind of tight shot, and she looked up at me.
Oh, but I think it's so great.
Caught me. Yes. And I loved it. So the intention was not for her to,
Yes,
the original intention wasn't for her to make eye contact, but when she looked up at me, it was perfect, like.
spectacular. So
Mhm.
my question on this is, did you crop it in camera this way?
So there was a crop, but not an extreme crop. So I do a lot of creative crops.
Mhm.
But this was shot with half, not a little more than half of her face. So it
Mhm.
was, the intention was not to have her full face. In
Right.
fact, the room was partially blocking her,
Yeah.
because she was facing him. And so I wanted to kind of get just one side of her face.
It's so beautiful. I love it.
Thank you. What else? We have more groups. I love to use framing. This was at a museum. Um, so this is several years ago. I don't remember how long ago. It was a surprise wedding,
Mm.
but I'm always looking for opportunities to use frames.
This is great. Let's talk about this for a sec.
Yeah. So, and this is actually, so I'll place people and do a few things with them in that spot. Um, the couple actually chose, this is right outside their venue. I love this venue. It's in Baltimore, the George Peabody Library. But there's a historic church, and there are a lot of historic structures in the surrounding area. This is the Lincoln Memorial, I believe. And so they chose this spot to do their photos. They did a first look, group portraits, and I'll often, a lot of times will, because I'm thinking about the wedding album, will pick the spot and then do each kind of combination of photos in the same location, so that it looks cohesive in the album, at least as it pertains to like the group portraits. So yeah, we were here. This is where the first look happened, but then the wedding party joined us. uh
This is great.
it was fun. Again,
So
and
much
kind
for
of me looking in this spot, looking for, this was actually not one of the largest groups I've ever worked with, but me looking, anytime I have to pose groups, do I have levels, do I have texture, do I have something that tells us about where we are the day? So this part of this little, I think it's like a little strip of park, um
Mhm.
fit all the kind of things that I scan for when I'm trying to choose a spot for group portraits.
That's great. It's wonderful. Thank you for sharing some of those with us. That's amazing. You and I were together. Yeah, we can stop sharing. You and I were, we taught a photo walk together a few weeks ago in Santa Barbara, and it was so neat because we both were saying the same things, but doing it in such different ways. Because I think, one of the things we talked about was a big mistake that photographers make is choosing a area because of the background, and
Mhm.
they're not looking at good lighting. And
Mhm.
so, I like to remind photographers we have to find great lighting, or in your case, many, many times create great
Mhm.
lighting. So you're kind of doing the best of both worlds. I'm like, okay, where's the lighting on the face? And I'm doing more family portraits. I'm not doing weddings anymore. Thank God. And and so I'm looking for beautiful spaces with beautiful light. And you have to photograph a certain place at a certain time. Like, you don't have any negotiation there. So you have to be really, really thinking on your feet and creating light
Mhm.
where you want to make these beautiful images, and at a fast pace. So
Yeah, being a wedding photographer is like boot camp for photography, learning about light. And if you truly like stick with it and embrace the challenges of what a wedding day can throw at you, you can, even if you ultimately decide to change, I think it's just a great experience for any photographer to learn about how to work with different types of light,
Mhm.
and to not feel fearful of it or to not feel challenged by it. Um, but when you confront these different lighting conditions and you learn how to create something beautiful with it, things that you might have formerly thought were bad, when I was a portrait photographer, I avoided certain types of light. Um,
Right, right.
and still too, like, it's a give and take. Sometimes you learn from your couple what aesthetic they want for their wedding day, and to the extent that, and you want everything to kind of match and look cohesive. So it also helps you in your skills for finding that kind of light source. And if you can't find it in your split place, like you said, creating it.
Mhm.
Because we don't always get the option. I am always going to choose the light that I want to work with. I'm not going to say good or bad light. I'm always going to choose the light that I want, with whatever that light type is, over backdrop.
Good.
So I'm looking for that first. However, if I know that, let's say, the grand stairwell is absolutely where this, that is what the couple has their heart set on, and my ideal light is not there, I'm going to get my insurance shot first with the good light, and I'm going to find a way to get them their grand staircase shot. So I'm
Right.
going to create the light that I need to get it in, so that, it opens opens you up creatively and your skill set, when you embrace those kind of varying scenarios that get thrown at you on a wedding day.
So I would like to know because under pressure, I get less likely to experiment and try something new. And I don't feel that from you. I feel that you're still pushing yourself on, like you're not having, I mean, maybe you do, but like you're not setting up shoots to try new things. Maybe you
I
do,
do it
but
I
on the
do it on the
wedding,
job.
yeah, you're doing it on the job. That's what I'm trying to get at. The rest of us are over here like trying to master it before we get in front of people, and you're just like going with it. So, what's your advice to those of us who are too worried that to try something new?
That you might miss. So I have an approach for that. I always think, I believe in having my insurance shot. So, and I will say, like, it, it's, if I'm under a crunch, um, or if I feel, like challenged by something, I do have, like, kind of like this um chest that I can pull, of skills, or things that I will do that I can pull from call it your default mode, your autopilot mode.
Right.
So yeah, I wouldn't say that it doesn't happen to me where I'm like, I don't know if I can't, I have time for this, right? But I do, a lot of my photos are born of me trying something that could have totally sucked, could have totally been horrible. And I've done it at a wedding. So I preach this often, is that I believe in taking the safe shot first, which I can do that in 60 seconds. And when I teach, or do lead photo walks and things like that, that's one of the things I talk about. We all have a repertoire of things that we can do very quickly because we've done them so many times. And if you don't, it's very easy to develop that system.
Mhm.
We are ultimately providing a service, and so we want to make sure that we want
Right.
to ensure that we provide those classic timeless photos that we know are home run, they're going to love it. You can do those. When you think about it that way, you really don't need to spend a ton of time doing that. That
Mm.
means you freed up, all the rest of the time is free for you to take a chance. Um,
Such a good way to think of that.
and so even if you have 5 minutes or 10 minutes, if you really are leaning into doing your safe shots first, then you have 3, 4 minutes to experiment, or 10 minutes to experiment. And I believe in um, creating a collaborative spirit between the photographer and client. And so
Mhm.
what that means is, I'm like, that we're in on this together. They're aware that we're trying something.
Okay.
We're playing around. We're having fun. We did this already. So there's that awareness that, hey, I want to try something. Are you down? I have that rapport with the majority of my clients because I spend time building that rapport, so that we're trying something together.
You spend a lot of time with your clients before the wedding, which it sounds kind of obvious, but it's so important. I mean, we do the same thing with our portrait sessions. Like you're not meeting a client for the first day on the wedding.
In most instances, no. So there are some instances, especially for smaller weddings, elopements, things like that. Um, most instances we have connected several times. I have had some weddings where I'm meeting them for the first time in person on the wedding day. But I really do push to do an engagement session with all of the couples so that we will have met, eat, and work together before their wedding day. And so majority of the time I am able to do that. It's not mandatory for them to do an engagement session with me. It's not like like an inclusion, an automatic inclusion. They do have to
Right.
opt in to have it, but I do encourage it, and most of our couples do them. But we are meeting remotely, like on a Zoom and things like that. There are two main touch points that I have with a client if we're not doing an engagement session where we will connect remotely. But yeah, I think rapport building is important. So it's important to have those opportunities to connect with your client, especially when it comes to something so personal as a wedding. Um,
So one thing that I was shocked to find out about when I first met you, and the nice thing about Sony Alpha Female too, is like we have this community where like people like you, like we respect their work and it's just this place where we can approach people and make friendships where maybe we wouldn't normally be feeling
yeah.
inclined to do that, right? But I remember when I met you, I was shocked because to find out how shy you are. Like you are very, very shy
Yes.
and very quiet. And I was like, this does not, in my mind, equal the
Imagine a
person
big,
that made
big
these
personality.
images. Yeah, exactly. Like these are big, bold, colorful images. They're brave, they're unconventional. And so I'm wondering, especially for the clients that you meet, don't have as much time with prior to the wedding, how do you break out of that shyness quickly to establish and build that rapport quickly to get the images? For other introverts out there, what advice do you have?
So I am heavily introvert. So, and I should clarify, like, I know not all introverts are shy. I happen to be both. However, at my big age, I've learned to power through my shyness. Like and especially I think there's that, I've heard people say about me that I'm like a different person when I'm in photographer mode. I get really excited about creating the work, and I think some of that goes out the door. I'm definitely like the girl that takes the lead on the wedding day. I'm vocal. I am I bring my calm energy, which I think is a great uh, plus for weddings, because there can be moments of chaos and you want to be that kind of
Yeah.
Zen energy that kind of pulls everything together. Um, but I think I enjoy connecting with people, and I'm keen on using tools of observation on the wedding day. So those are some things that I do. There are things that I do to get a quick crash course on people, and observation is king. Like I'm reading the room the moment I arrive.
Mhm.
Uh, I think there is a power in my quietness. I'm not the first. I'm listening more than I'm speaking, um, and I'm
There
gathering.
is power in that
Yeah.
because then,
Gathering information gatherer.
yep, yep. Well, and two, like I taught a workshop this weekend and we were talking about how to get these quiet expressions out of children. And I said, the louder they get, the quieter I get.
Mhm.
And I feel like when you are more quiet, when people finally figure out that you're still there waiting for them, then they kind of are like, oh, she's in control. Like this is her thing. And so I think you do that really, really well.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm definitely, I believe it serves me well, especially, there's a, benefit to being able to kind of fall back and observe so that you can use the information. So I'm very, one of my, those soft skills that are so important is the ability to kind of cue in on like the different relationship dynamics and use them as a way to connect with people, use them as a way to get people on board with doing certain things. Um, and, because a big part of the outcome you get is people's willingness to be a part of it. People,
Mhm.
um, being open to doing certain things and to
Right.
trusting things like that. So,
So, okay, I have a million more questions about all this, selfishly, but I am going to put a pin in all of that because I have our rapid fire questions that we're going to take a little break from the heavy thinking. And we're gonna run through some of these, and then we're gonna come back on the other side. And I have way more questions that I'm like, oh my God, we're running out of time already. Okay. So we already know introvert. That's usually the first one I ask. So I'm going to answer that for you. Introvert.
yes,
Early bird or night owl?
early bird.
Movie or book?
Movie.
Call or text?
Text.
This has been a
No, I'm just
interesting.
kidding.
Everybody has an interesting answer to that one. Okay. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Something not camera gear that you can't live without.
Ooh, um, iced coffee.
Hey,
I could live without it, but I don't know.
we'd prefer not to. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh, Favorite place in the world?
Oh, wow. With my family, wherever my family is.
Oh, and we should say too.
I didn't give you a fancy location. I just wherever.
No, that's right. And we should mention I had this earlier and then I started rambling, but I mean you've got three children. You're not just like being a lawyer, being a photographer, and that's all you have. You've got three children and share their ages.
Teenagers. Well, one's a young adult, just barely, just turned 19. And then I have twin boys that are 14.
I mean, that's a handful.
Yeah, house full of teenagers.
I love it. Okay, what celebrity would you be BFFs with?
Ooh, that's hard to it's toss up between Beyonce and Rihanna.
Oh, nice. One thing on your bucket list.
I would like to, and this is not so, it's not unattainable at all, but I would like to go to Iceland. I have
Oh, everybody loves it. I have not done it.
never been, so
Yeah. Something that you can't do but wish you could.
I wish I could sing.
That's a good one. I wish I could sing. Favorite color?
Yellow.
Really?
Yes.
I was gonna say, I thought you would say that beautiful, your headshot on that beautiful, like
The
whatever color that is, sage
coral.
pink or coral or oh
Yeah,
my
I
gosh.
like corals. But yellow is my favorite color. You wouldn't guess it from my wardrobe, but yeah.
Guilty pleasure TV show.
Ooh. So I've watched a fair amount of like cheesy teen dramas. I'm trying to think of one. Oh, so like all of like the have and have nots is like Tyler Perry soap opera.
Oh my gosh.
It's an old one actually. I don't it's not I but yeah, that was one
All
that
right.
I openly admitted to watching. But also I feel like the some of the teen like dramas that I've watched are equally or
Like I
worse.
watched the whole Pretty Little Liars series,
Oh,
the
you
whole
did. I
thing.
started
I
that
mean,
and didn't finish it. Yeah.
the whole thing. And I hated myself while I was watching it. There's quite a number of seasons, so there was quite a long time that I thought, why am I watching this? But I got sucked in. Okay, how do you recharge?
By like going someplace quiet, lights off,
Okay,
like
separate sensory deprivation tank.
yeah.
Yeah. What's the quality you most appreciate in a friend?
Uh, I like the quality I most appreciate. I most appreciate like empathy, someone who has honest empathy,
Yeah,
someone who can be honest but kind.
love it. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Telepathy. I used to dream about having that superpower as a kid.
One item you carry in your purse at all times.
Hand sanitizer.
Did you do that before COVID or only since COVID?
I wouldn't definitely more diligent since COVID, but it's been I used to always carry it. You have at least as for as long as I've been a mom, you have kids
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and you're on the go. I wouldn't say I'm like a germaphobe or whatever, but
yeah.
maybe borderline. Not, I'm not a germaphobe, but yeah,
What one word would you use to describe your last 3 years?
Um,
Rapid fire, Kesha.
I'm sorry. Educational. I don't know.
Okay.
Education.
All right, here we go. Ceremony or reception?
Reception.
Bride or groom?
Oh, that's not fair. Bride.
Small wedding or big to do?
Ooh, small wedding, despite
Favorite
the
part of the ceremony?
all the big ones.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Favorite part of the ceremony?
Um, the vow exchange,
Favorite part of the reception?
the parent dances.
Oh, that's great. Favorite reception song?
Oof. I don't know. Can't think of anything.
Do you have a most hated
Yeah,
reception
I
song?
have a most hated. This is how we do it. I hate it with every fiber in my body. I hate that song.
That's how I feel about Brick House.
Yeah.
I can like I
Oh
will
my
walk
God.
out. I can't.
And it is
Oh,
a staple at weddings.
yes. Yes. Okay. One item, not camera, that you need in your camera bag at all times.
Snacks.
For you or at the wedding
For-
party?
Definitely for me, but for anyone else who needs them.
What piece of gear would they have to pry out of your cold dead hands?
Oh wow. Um, my 50 millimeter 1.2 GM.
Is that what you use the most
A
on the
lot.
wedding day?
I use a lot.
And what's your favorite body on the wedding day?
Recently, it's been the A7R5. I would like the A1 has been a staple since launch, but I've found that I've been using it a lot. Just like the renderings that I get from the 7R5. So
It's I mean they're incredible.
yeah.
They're incredible files. Yeah, so I've been shooting Sony since the Mark II,
Mhm.
and the 4 was amazing. The 4 was such a great camera. And when we went up for
Had that one.
launch last year, and I thought, what could they put in the file? We're not going to need this. We're not going to. We're good. We're good. We got it. The 4 is everything we need. And before the end of the launch, we had pre-ordered 2 of them, and I feel like they are a joy to shoot. They have brought the fun back in the creative aspect of it. Just everything's so intuitive. It's just fluid. It's an extension of us.
Yeah. Less thinking, more creating.
Um, okay, the most important advice you would give new photographers.
Find yourself. Um, and the question is interesting because is this still rapid fire? Am I supposed to be short?
Well, it's kind of not. I mean, no, we're good. You can take your time on this one.
So I've gotten the new photographer question often, and then you think about it in terms of, are you a new photographer business owner, or are you a new photographer just creating personal projects? Because my answer is different for both.
Okay.
If you're a new photographer, like just for the love of photography, or you're exploring this journey because you want to be an artist, you want whatever that looks like, you have aspirations to have your work in a book or in a gallery. I would say focus on uh, finding who you are, learning what sparks your fire and building work around that. And that's going to evolve and change. So that's a constant journey in self-exploration and defining and redefining yourself and redefining your work. It's so important um, in a space that is heavily saturated, where there's virtually no zero barrier to entry for
Right,
um,
right.
it can be a very cluttered space, especially if you're tapped into like social media and everyone's showing their work. And, you know, that component of kind of etching out who you are, what speaks to you, creating from that source as opposed to ingesting a lot of examples of other work.
And
um,
mimicking
and
and yeah.
mimicking. I mean, mimicking is always going to be a part of it, I think, for people starting out. But if you can get past that point and to the point where you're just going out there and kind of
Right.
pulling from the things that make you light up,
Mhm.
the things that you are drawn to, like define those things. For me, I learned that it was, I like color. I don't wear a lot of color, but I love color and I love texture and I love movement. So find the things, I'm inspired by people who are curious about, like whatever that is, whatever like gets you excited to take a picture.
Mhm.
Lean into that, define, and develop your style. For someone who is decided that I'm a, they're a good photographer, they want to become a good photographer or a great photographer, and they want to get paid, and they want to make a business out of it. Like they want to service clients, whether those are commercial clients or private individuals. um, I would say kind of the opposite. Like you're always going to want to define your style, but it's less about defining your art and more about, I'd say, prioritizing, which is not intuitive for us, prioritizing business, prioritize getting your house in order,
Mhm.
prioritize those strategies that will, it's more sales, it's more marketing, it's more brand identity, and it's more focusing on those things. It's more systems. What systems do you have in place so that you can provide a great experience? What systems do you have in place so that you can give a great end product and get people to come back and spread the word? Like focusing on that over being the best artist, because what you need is a sellable product. And once you have a sellable product, your work doesn't necessarily mean you're the best. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have something necessarily unique. It means that if that is where your focus is, you can have both.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
saying prioritize those considerations over developing your art. That
I think it's
like,
an important part. If people are really trying to make a living doing this, it's
yes,
contrary, right? Because we're like, we want to be photographers, so that's what we want to learn first. It's more
learn
fun.
light and learn posing, and I want
Right,
to.
right. But if we can't sustain a living doing what we do, then there's no opportunity to go pursue the art.
Right.
You have to, like you said, get your house in order so that you can feed this habit, feed this hobby, feed this love, this passion, and then you can start playing and developing your own things and doing all of that. I think
They
it's
should all
really
be
exciting.
happening. They should all be happening. But I think too many times we put, like, all can be happening, right? But too many times we just want to make pretty pictures. And so we put a lot of our focus on that.
Right,
And that's not actually the most important things when it comes to being able to make a living doing it.
right. And you know what? That is a really honest answer, and many people do not talk about that. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm glad um that you spoke truth to that, because there's a lot of people that that's hard for. That topic is hard for. Okay. Oh my gosh. I am looking at so we haven't even talked about any of the things we said we were going to talk about. Just yes.
Oh, we had,
Well, we've
I'm
talked we've
a
talked about.
little long-winded.
No, I think it's me. So, okay, let's see. I think I did that. I'm going to come back over here for a second and ask you, why weddings?
Because I'm a sap. I'm a big ball of mush. I have a very, reserved disposition. Um, and I don't think a lot of people, unless you know me, would guess this about me, but very sentimental. I like, you know, there are things that I've had my moments of burnout with weddings that because it's very physical kind of work to do, and it's can be very also very emotionally draining because you get pulled into all of the things, all of the like the relationship dynamics,
Right,
the
right.
emotion of it, the feeling of it. Um, but I like the idea of being a part of the start of someone's like story. I like the idea of having my work in homes of people for generations to come. And, I just think it's very important work, because when you hear people, when people come back to me and say, you took the last photo of my aunt so and so. This is the only photo we have of this person, or this is the last photo of my or not even the last photo, my I've never seen my grandma dance this way
Right,
before,
right,
things like
right,
that.
right.
So I'm a sap. I love stuff like that. And I think weddings are beautiful, uh part of, you see all, like, from the parent, the parent send-offs to there's so much feeling in a wedding. And so I enjoy that part of it. They're pretty too, whether they're small courthouse weddings to large, elaborate, grandiose weddings. I love all the pretty. And it's
Well,
not boring, like I feel like I love the challenge of being in a different environment.
different time. Yeah. So you and your husband renewed your vows, what, last year, a year ago, 2 years ago?
2 years ago. Yep.
It feels like it. I mean, time is
Time is
weird.
flying. Yeah.
So what did you, and for those of you guys who, first of all, tell everybody your Instagram so they can follow you and see all of the things.
So my Instagram is my name. It's Kesha Lambert, Kesha Lambert. Uh,
And you have on your feed some of your vow renewal images, right? Because
yeah,
yeah,
it
people need
might
to
even be pinned to the top. It may or may not be pinned to the top. But yes, we went to a city, one of our favorite cities, New Orleans, and we had a few close friends. Well, Neil has a humongous family, so a
I
few.
was like, that looked like a more than a few
There were
close.
there were about, I want to say there were about 40 people there, but if you know the size of my husband's family, then you know.
That was
And,
a
and they are, not only does he have a large family, but they are pretty, they all are pretty close knit. It's not like a large and people don't have a connection, they don't stay in touch, that kind of thing. So it's always interesting when we're kind of spread out all over. So that kind of is what saves us from having like huge things all the time. But yeah, it
was
was.
was there a was there something that you saw or at a wedding that you had photographed that you thought, oh, that's going to be a good idea and got incorporated into your renewal somehow?
No, other than I just love the city, and all the color and texture and the vibe, the jazz influences, and you know, um I love, it fits the kind of things that inspires me. So that in choosing, and we both enjoyed, we'd been there not many times, but we'd been there a couple of times before. First time we went was for the photo cookout. I think that was the first time I'd ever been in New Orleans. Um, and then we'd gone again. I have not photographed a wedding there, I don't think. I'm trying to think. I could be lying.
Yet.
I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think I've ever done a wedding there. But we just loved it. I wanted to, because I'm always wearing black all the time. We did all the colors.
Oh,
We
so
did
beautiful.
tropical colors, and
So beautiful.
we had fun. It was gave me a renewed level of empathy for what it's like to be on the client side of that experience. Even though it was definitely not like it wasn't like a wedding or wedding.
Yeah. Yeah.
We renewed our vows. We partied after.
The portraits were incredible. Your sons looked amazing. They're so handsome. Um, so normally I kick off this interview with the same question for everybody, but in your case, I'm almost ending with it. I have one other couple things that I want to hit real quick, but for you, is photography itself the passion, or is it a means to an end?
Photography is a passion, and um, it is, yeah, it was never a means to an end. I didn't anticipate that um, I'd be doing this. So I wasn't using it as a pathway to something else. It was always the thing I enjoyed doing, and it still is. Anytime it starts to feel like I'm not enjoying it, I take a step back, put the camera down, or I create for myself. Uh,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's definitely now, are there other things adjacent to photography I would love to do? Yes, but no, it's definitely I'm not, there's no other end goal.
Got it. Love it. Um, you have a workshop coming up in February.
Yes.
Tell us quickly about that.
It's February 22nd. It's for wedding and portrait photographers, anybody who, but with the focus is on um, working in an uncontrolled environment. So I did this workshop series last year. So I'm doing this and kind of remixing it again. So I did 3 dates last year, where it was on location, working with a couple or individuals, and just showing people how we work in New York City is the backdrop, and
Nice.
how I work on location in terms of finding light, in terms of using the environment, and then after we break bread together, we pull up the images that both that I captured, that the attendees capture, and we kind of talk through them. And so bringing that back. I'm doing one date. I have the dates in February, and but there will be we're going to be both inside and in indoor. So I
So is
really
it one day, one day?
okay. Yep.
Okay.
So I really
So
wanted
can you,
to marry what it's like to be showing up as an on-location photographer, weddings in particular, but helpful for portrait photographers too, where you're in one setting and then you're in another type of setting. So,
yeah, okay. So I need that date, because
February 22nd. And I will actually post about it. Should I drop the link in here?
you can, and then also I would suggest putting the information in the Sony Alpha Female group as a
I,
follow. So
yep,
if anybody had a question today that we weren't able to get to, head over to the Sony Alpha Female Facebook group, pop your
yep.
question in there, and Kesha will be sure to check that and answer. And then I personally would love that workshop information because I would have a ball with that. So the last thing that I want to ask you is, what is the number one thing that you hope people can learn from you?
The number one thing I hope people can learn from me is to be brave. I think because there are a lot of things that can be discouraging about being an artist, about providing your art, your work, putting your work out there. Um, there can be voices of your own. There can be, you listening to voices that weren't even speaking to you in the first place. Um, and the human nature is that you can ingest some of that, you can internalize some of it, and it can impact you, no matter how confident a person you are. And I think it's important to understand that you are a unique signature, you yourself, the way you see the world, all of your experiences, put that all in a pot, and that's something that no one else can do. And to take confidence and joy in that, and continue to create and put your work out there, and despite fear, um, to continue pressing forward. That there are highs and lows on this journey. If we're 4 years out from the pandemic, but that certainly taught us that no matter where you are in your career, how accomplished you are, that something can come along and level you right out
Right,
and
that's right.
humble you quick, fast, and in a hurry. So like, it's important to just know that that's a part of the journey, and just be brave, continue pressing forward.
I think that's the perfect uh descript, like I said that about you earlier. Your photography is brave. And go ahead and if you don't mind, go ahead and put that. It just occurred to me, a lot of people will watch this on the replay. So go ahead and put your workshop in the chat there, and then the Cooper or Derek can put it in the YouTube comments for everybody so that they can find it. Also, but definitely do put that in the Alpha Female group. So, Kesha, you are just such a inspiration for me, and I know for so many people. You challenge me and inspire me to be braver when I shoot and think differently. And so I appreciate that from you. And you've given such great advice today and such great insight. And I know that so many people are going to benefit from it. So thank you so much for giving your time today. And, not to harp on it, but this Sony Alpha Female group is so special because, I would not have met you without this group. And you've always just been like, oh, Kesha. And so now, because that we're part of that Sony group together, I felt like I could introduce myself and talk to you. Now I'm so happy to call you friend. And we survived a very scary ski lift
Oh yeah.
gondola ride a couple years ago that bonded us also.
Core memory we will never forget.
As it got stuck, 42,000 feet in the air. But thank you for sharing everything and just being amazing and really for just everything that you're doing. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody else, thank you for joining us. This has been another episode of Sony Alpha Female, the interviews. And we thank you for being here. Join us over on the Facebook group, and we can't wait to see you next time.